I'm Clive Wynne. I'm a professor of psychology at ASU and the director of the Canine Science Collaboratory.
I'm Lisa Gunter. I'm the Maddie's Fund Research Fellow at Arizona State University and also in the Canine Science Collaboratory.
And we just published a study on the impact of temporary fostering on the welfare of dogs that live in shelters.
And so our study got started at Best Friends Animal Sanctuary in Kanab, Utah. And one of the things that's kind of awesome about our work is that we get to try to understand how different types of programs and shelters benefit the lives of dogs there. And so this program began there. They had a program called Sleepovers, which is just one night away, and that's how we got started learning more about this program.
Yeah, so there are a few shelters around the country that thought it was a good idea to send dogs, especially their long stay dogs, home to people for maybe just one night a sleepover or maybe a couple of nights a weekend. And this has been catching on gradually around the country, but nobody had done a systematic analysis to see whether it actually does the dogs any good, because intuitively it seems like a good thing, right? The dog's sort of in prison, and when you send the dog to somebody for fostering, you're sort of sending them home, and that seems like a benefit to their lives. But from other things that people have studied, it wasn't necessarily clear that it would have the positive impacts that you'd expect, because there are studies on laboratory animals like rats in cages and so on that show that if a stressful situation comes and goes, that's actually on balance a worse situation than if you're just living with the same stress day in, day out. So that's what motivated this study.
I think there was also thoughts in animal sheltering that would the dogs feel poorly when they returned, that they thought they were being adopted, and then sadly they had to return to the animal shelter. So I think that there was some was sort of a couple different reasons why we decided to go after this question. That's the one thing about dogs, we can't ask them, so how was your stay? Was it relaxing? You know, how would you rate the home? So we asked these questions by using cortisol, which is a hormone that is involved in the stress response. And we also had the dogs wearing these doggy Fitbits that record their activity levels and particularly their sleep.
Yeah, and this was done at 5 shelters around the country. It started, the inspiration came from Best Friends in Canine, Utah, but then it was done
Arizona Humane Society of Western Montana, Lifeline Animal Project at DeKalb County, and then the SPCA of Texas.
Yeah, so we get a good wide-ranging picture, and the outcome is, wherever you are in the country, at least these 5 places, it really does help the dogs. They are definitely in a better place while they're being fostered. It's definitely a benefit to them. We see the stress hormone levels going down. We see them sleeping a great deal. That seems to be a major part of it. The shelter is a noisy, difficult environment. It's hard for them to get a good night's sleep. When they go home, they sleep a lot, they're rested, and then when they go back to the shelter on Monday or whatever it is, they bounce back to where they were before, but it's no worse than it was before. So they get a real break and there's no downside to it. So it's a definite advantage for them.
I think one other thing that we saw with the sleep was that actually when they come back, they're sleeping longer than when they were in the beginning. And I think that's something that we think is important in terms of for their behavior in the kennel, that sometimes when folks see dogs in the shelter that are bouncing off the walls, that are moving a lot, that are doing behaviors that have been associated with not being adopted, we think that the idea of the dogs being able to be rested and relaxed could benefit their adoption options.
So it's sort of like a doggy vacation.
Yeah.
And then you go back to the daily grind of work, but you're well rested.
I think I hadn't thought of putting it that way,
Yeah.
but I think conceptualizing it as a doggy vacation is a really good way to think about it. That the dog gets a real break, is really refreshed, and okay, they have to go back to work on Monday, but they're in a refreshed place when they go back. That's good.
Like a weekend for the work week.
Yeah.